Hi, everybody, and welcome to our last and final day of our Back to School Boom Symposium. We are so happy to have you join us here. We have an amazing group of SLPs, and you are in for a super treat in this webinar. They are going to show you all their tips and tricks to keep your students engaged and they're going to showcase their amazing boom cards and how they use them in their therapy sessions. Before we get started, I do want to thank everyone for joining us. This is our last day. So after this, we're going to have some webinars on music, ELA, math, social studies, AAC, and foreign languages. So you can please, there's still time. I'm going to post it in the chat that you can register for those remaining webinars. Before we get started, a couple housekeeping details. There's a chat box below, as I just mentioned. Please let us know where you're coming from and kind of what age groups you teach and what your specialty is or what you do in speech therapy, as well as a Q&A box. If you've got questions, please post it in the Q&A box below. It just helps us find the questions easier. The chat can get really messy in there, so we want to answer all your questions. And with that, we do have a live Q&A session in the last 10 minutes of this webinar. So if your questions don't get answered right away, just know they're going to be addressed in the live Q&A at the end. So this is being recorded. You will get a link to the recording. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jenny Bjorn.
You got it, Jenny Bjorn. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I apologize for my hoarseness. I just haven't quite gotten my voice back this summer. I'm Jenny Bjorn. I'm the owner of Bjorn Speech Publications. I've been a speech pathologist for over 24 years. And in private practice for 21 of those years. I learned about Boom right when COVID hit, and I just dug in and started creating some things because I personally needed it in order to work with all the kids on my caseload. So with so much downtime with COVID, I, took to creating a lot of boom cards and learning the system inside and out. So it's been tons of fun, making boom cards, selling boom cards, and using them in my therapy sessions. So today I thought I would just pop over to Boom and share one of my favorite interactive boom cards that I made during the height of COVID and continue to use in my therapy sessions, mostly on my iPad in-person therapy. I find that when I finally realized that you could do boom cards on your iPad, it was kind of like mind-blowing because I had only been using them really on my computer for kids with teletherapy. And then when I moved back into in-person therapy, I was using boom cards on my computer. And then I realized that you could use them on the iPad. And then I'm like, this changes everything. So I'm going to share this boom card that I created. It's called Treasure Hunt. And I just went in and I just illustrated a lot of the images. And then I also took art that I used from that I bought from TPT and created this boom card. So if any of you are interested in creating boom cards, it's tons and tons of fun and a great way to make extra money. I really like this treasure hunt game because you can use it for so many different goals for speech and language, for specifically for speech and or for language goals. I wrote a whole bunch of different language goals, not necessarily goals, but like specific targets that you could use playing this game. What I really love about this game is that you can use this game for child-led therapy through choice making. So I find in my practice over the past 24 years is that when I do speech therapy in a child-led manner, I find that children do a much better than if I am in a therapist-led manner. So if you follow me on Instagram at Bjorm Speech, you probably see me doing a lot of therapy, particularly with kids with childhood apraxia of speech, because that's the area I specialize in. All my therapy is very child-led. And so that's, again, why I love this game. There's a lot of choice making where you can control what is going on, but still the child thinks they're in control or it's being used as child-led. So in this game, we're going to go through a series of scenes using our map. And so the child can choose an explorer. So, and the cool thing is that it's going to get you to the end wherever you go the way I created it. But so some of the things that you could do here, since I am a childhood apraxia speech specialist, I do work on high repetitions of correct repetitions. So in order for kids to be able to take that move or make that choice, they have to go through that series of high repetitions. And that's just usually how I do it for speech. If you're doing it for language, you could target action words, you could target prediction, you could target following directions, recall using the map. Oh, do you remember where we're going to go next on the map, or where were we on the map? You could use this game for expanding utterances, for turn taking, answering questions, and vocabulary. So this is extra fun because I embedded sound into this game. So I have the little explorer and I can move him with my finger or my mouse, depending on if I'm using the iPad or the computer, but I can tell the child, it's like, okay, you've got a choice. Do you want to go through, do you think it's an alligator pond or do you think it's a crocodile pond? Do you want to go through the crocodile pond or do you want to go through the grass? And so then we talk about, oh, what do you think it sounds like? So if you're using language, you could incorporate all these different things into your journey to find the treasure. So like I said, I incorporated sound. So the child can either ask me or I can ask them. We can answer questions and then we play the sound. So if the child wants to hear what the grass sounds like, it just adds that extra element. Or if the child wants to hear what the alligator or crocodile, depending on what the child decides is there, you can add this element. If you don't have sound embedded into your boom cards, if you're creating boom cards, you should do it. Kids love it. So a lot of times what I'll do if the child says, okay, we're going to go through the alligator pond. I was like, do you want to hop on the alligator? Do you want to walk through the water? Do you want to jump over? What are some ideas? How could we get through this? So coming up with fun ideas to expand that language and maybe have that turn taking. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll play the sound while the explorer is moving through. And then I just walk off. And then I have a little compass that you click at the bottom of each page, and that takes you to the next page. That little compass will move you. And then you can talk about, okay, look, we just went through the alligator pond. Look at our map. Where are we going next? So it kind of looks like some rocks. So you can do some predicting and take a look. So here the explorer gets to make the choice whether they're going to climb the rocks or go through the tornado. So we can listen to these. And so you can get silly. You can say, if you're using descriptive language, you're going to say, is he going to spin through the tornado or are they going to run through the tornado? And then the child can make some choices. So if they're going to spin through the tornado, I would hit the sound and then we would spin. And then we get real excited because he made it through the tornado. And then we move on to the map. Here you get to either cross a bridge or go over the lily paths. And then we just walk them off the screen. So there's so many different things you can do with this, and kids love it. Do you want to go through the snakes, or do you want to go through the bear forest? A lot of times kids will request to hear the sounds before they decide to go, because they may want to go through a scarier one, or they may want to go through a less scarier one. And then you can kind of come up with some ideas of how the child or the explorer is going to sneak around that specific animal. And then we go back to our map in between each time, because it's a great discussion. Here, we've got the choice of a creepy forest or a black hole. And kids love this. They think it's so funny. And I'm like, do you want to go down the ladder in the black hole? You want to see what's down there? Oh, hurry, get out. So there's all kinds of things you can talk about. So on this one, do you want to climb the mountains, or do you want to go across the cracking ice? And so then, like, a lot of times we'll talk about, well, should we go across the cracking ice slowly and tiptoe, or should we hurry and run across it? So there's a whole bunch of ideas. Or if we're going to climb the mountains and it gets up really high, what kinds of things do we need to be prepared to go up into the mountains? So it sounds really windy and cold up there. Not looking forward to winter. We're almost done. Here we get to make a choice to go into the cave or go into the fiery vines. So let's listen to what these sound like. Ow. I have a little part saying, ouch. That definitely sounds like a dark cave. The dark cave is kind of fun, because when you put him in the dark cave, he disappears. And then we can talk about, oh no, where do you think he went? And then the next one, we're almost there. So here you get to either go through the sharks, or you get to go across the rapids. So let's listen to these. Kids love this. They think it's so much fun. So again, you can hold on to the child, and when you're done with your goal, when you're done with working what you're working on, then the child can make the choice, and then they can physically take them across so that they get to interact with it. Let's see what the rapids sound like. And then, you can make them hop on the rocks. You can help them get across. So these are all things you can discuss. And then we get to the X we got here. And so we're going to dig. And then we've reached the treasure. So this is just a really fun, game. I have this one. I also have Quest for the Castle. So I've got several of these like this, but if you're making boom cards, try to embed some sounds. It's really, really fun, and the kids love it. So I hope this was some good ideas. I feel like you can use these for a variety of goals, for a variety of ideas, all while allowing the child to have that child-led therapy. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope I didn't go over my time.
No, you're good. I love the idea of, the child having a say in the therapy session. So I think that really engages them. It gives them agency, and, and it's a game. I don't even know if they feel like it's a therapy session or work in any way, shape, or form. I have a ton of questions for you, Jenny. Okay. First of all, Mary asked, do you have the student move the figures and have mouse control, or do you control the mouse?
So it just depends on the individual child. If I'm in person, a lot of times I'll hold the iPad. I always hold the control. I think it also comes with like experience as a speech therapist, where I hold control until I'm ready to give the child control. When I'm doing therapy over Zoom, a lot of times I will just do it because it's hard to like give control, take control, give control, take control. But for older kids that can, listen and wait, then you may give them control. So I've done both. I think it's just going to depend.
Gotcha. And where do you get your sounds?
Oh man, I think I'm gonna have
Sylvia.
to Google it. I think it starts with an E. I will look and then maybe I can answer it at the end. So I'll look and see where I get them. I forget. I haven't done it in a while, but it is super cool to have the sounds.
Gianna asked, could this be used as a whole group activity? Students could take turns making choices, practice my turn or your turn.
Oh my gosh, I think that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. Like I haven't done group therapy in years. So absolutely, why not? I think it'd be so much fun, especially I know that you have the new shared, so Boom Learning has a new shared type of thing that they're doing. I think we're going to learn a little bit more about it today, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Monica is going to demonstrate that. So
Yay.
it's a new feature called Boom
Monica.
Live. Can't wait to have her show you. And finally, Andrea asked, can you share the link to these Boom cards?
Sure. Everything's in Bjorn Speech. So like if you're in Boom, all the cards I've ever created are at Bjorn Speech, but I can share them. I can share those here in the chat. And then, yes, it does work on the iPad. It's so great.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, we're moving on to Shelby next.
Hello. All right. Hi, I'm Shelby. I've been an SLP for 4 years. When I started my career, it was in 2019. So quickly 8 months after that, everything went virtual. So Boom cards have been almost a part of my whole career. And they became a huge success for doing teletherapy. And then once I went back in person, there was all that conversation around, well, what do we do with all of this money we all just spent on all of our virtual materials and all the things that we've created? And so I started using it in person, same as Jenny said. But I also have a lot of preschoolers who need to get up and move around, and I had to get creative with, ways to use it, but it became one of my favorite quick grab and go tools. You could do it anywhere. You could have a Boom cards out in a sensory gym. You could do it outside. You can have them out for an obstacle course. You can have it be part of that. So those are some things that I'm going to talk about today. To keep myself organized, I'm going to share some slides. Okay. So all right, so I am a pediatric SLP and a creator. Here are the things that I'm going to go over today. So how do you target multiple goals using one deck? That was a main thing for me, especially working in the schools. A lot of times I would have mixed groups, and those were really challenging. And then how to use Boom Learning in person with kids who need movement, and how to create a classroom to share with parents and students for home practice. That's something that I just started to do this past year. And that was a really interesting way to provide homework. This is my whole spiel. You are your best therapy tool. Use what you have, make it fun, and make it work for the child in front of you. And that's what I love so much about Boom Learning, is because you can take any sort of Boom card and make it work for the child in front of you if you get creative with it. So again, these are the 3 things that I'm going to talk about specifically with my Boom cards that I create. For all of them, I have like a how to use page or how to target multiple goals. And I just give a list of a variety of ideas just to get, your head getting into that space of like, okay, I can come up with a bunch of different things and how to use this one page on this boom card for multiple goals. Again, that is also great for using in groups and those open-ended games that I have. That's also a great way to use groups. I'm going to show how to use an open-ended game and pair it with an online dice or dice that you have there on the table, a spinner that you have. Adding movement. So an obstacle course is a great way to add movement. You can have, different stations, whether you have the stepping stones, if you have a little tunnel, if you have a trampoline. I was in a space where I had a swing, a trampoline, a crash pad. I was really lucky to have a lot of different things, but even if you just buy a set of cones and hoops, there's a ton of things you can do with that. I've had kids, jump through the different little hoops or jump around the cones, and then my iPad would be set up there at the end. So they would uncover their target word, say their target word 10 times, and then they get to go around a short obstacle course again. It's a good way to keep them moving, and it really makes the activity last as well. If you don't have materials for an obstacle course, any game with pieces or puzzles that have a bunch of pieces, have those on one side of the room, and your boom card set up in your iPad or however you want to share them on the other side of the room, and then have them jump or run or skip, hop over between the activities. That's a great way to add movement. And then the way that I send boom cards home for homework is through classrooms. I create a classroom. Each student has their own kind of login, and then you can assign specific decks to them. So I'm going to take you through a few of my boom cards that are all part of my year-long speech therapy bundle. And they all kind of have a similar look to the front of them. So you'll know kind of which ones are part of that bundle, where they all have an open-ended game. They all have over 40 target words to choose from. And so they have the main task, they have their open-ended game, and then they have goal ideas. So I can go ahead and start sharing those. So I'm going to switch over. Switch over here. Okay, so here is where I was assigning decks. So I will talk about that first. So here you have a classroom. So I just made a classroom for the Boom presentation class. And I just made student 1. You have a classroom code up here and a password. This is the URL, so you can just copy and paste this in an email to the parent and let them know their student's login and password. And then when they log in and click on their name or number, however you want to do it, you can see all of the ones that they have assigned to them. So I just assigned the boom cards that I have that are all part of that growing bundle that I was talking to you about, or the bundle is finished actually. So there's one for each holiday or season. And that's how they can work on those at home. It's great too if that's what you were working on in therapy, so then they can go home and work on that same thing. Here is the spring theme. So all of them will have the same kind of setup at the beginning, a how to use, speech sound targets, and an open-ended game. So there's the winter, back to school, fall bakery, monsters. So if we start with this one, you can click how to use, kind of just lets you know everything that you can do with the boom cards. If you click the speech sound targets, all of them will have a how to use speech targets for language goals. So you can work on describing the pictures that may be the target words for one student, but it may be something where another student has to describe what it is. Maybe you have 2 students partner up together, and the one who is working on describing goals, they have to describe what the target word is to the other student, whereas that's where they have their target word to work on and practice. Or if they're working on WH questions, you can work on following directions by telling them which objects to move or uncover, making a sentence using the words that pop up. Again, that would be a target word for someone else working on that sound. Name category that it might belong to, working on past tense verbs, even just talking about how you're using it. So each one has a page just like that has the ideas. This one, I'll show you if I just clicked here. So if I had a child that was working on S in the initial position, but they also had goals for following directions, I could say, okay, put the green crayon in the backpack. And then they put the green crayon in the backpack, and now they have their target word there. So all of the materials go into the backpack and they uncover a target word. A lot of them look like that. This one is a store, so you have to find the things that move, and there's things hidden. It's almost like a coffee shop or bakery. And then this one, you have to get all the monsters to their matching houses. So they've gotten out on the town and you want to have them go to their house. So you move them around that way. I just put that one in the wrong house. But here we go. All right, let's see. Maybe we'll do this one. I'm going to go back to the home page. Everything I also try to make very themed. Even the home buttons match the theme for whatever that deck is. And especially for the open-ended games. So instead of slides and ladders, this one is slopes and lifts. So they go up the ski lifts and then they go down the slopes. They have all these different people to choose from. And this is when I like to pair it with a free dice online, or if you're in person and you have a dice near you. I just happen to always lose my dice. So I can use this website, dice. They landed on a 2. So then you go back, take whoever you want, and you move them 2 spaces. And then the next person can go. And on an iPad, you can have them move their own pieces. This is great if you have them working on something else at the same time, or if you have your favorite speech cards that you like to use, any task cards that you have. Each student, when they take their turn, they say their target word that's on the speech card, or they do a language task, answer a WH question, something along those lines, and then they get to take a turn in the game. And so this is a way that you can still play a game with a group or with a kid one-on-one. And again, it can be done anywhere. If you're doing quick pull-out therapy, this is great. So it's a really good way to have a grab and go game that doesn't take up a bunch of space in your therapy bag or in your classroom, depending on what kind of SLP you are. So let's see. Is it okay if I look at the questions?
Sure. Right now we don't have too many, but I did want to say that if you want to share that cool dice tool that you use, that would be great. We had a creating boom cards webinar yesterday, and our special guest was Dave Sindri. Now you might have heard of him if you're in the speech world, but he created a free spinning dice video that I've linked as well. So check that out. Gianna quickly asked, would printing visuals in the choices and using a felt board be beneficial or take away from the activity? She's thinking of her students who are nonverbal or have limited range of motion and cannot independently use technology that would benefit from this. And as long as it wouldn't take away from the original intent of the activity. Was that a little long?
Yes. Printing, I guess I'm confused on the question. So printing visuals.
I think this was asked.
The visuals.
Yeah, I think that was for Jenny, actually.
Yeah. But the other thing is that if you do like to have a lot of SLPs, we like to have our task cards and our task boxes. You actually can print boom cards and laminate them and have them in that format as well. So if you wanted to print a page and then cut out the piece that you wanted to use as a visual to give them a physical choice, you could probably cut those out and laminate those and use that as a physical choice, possibly. That's
That
always
would work.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back and make sure I talk about all things that I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shelby. I loved how you're able to target so many goals with just one boom card. And I loved how your obstacle course encouraged movement in the therapy session. I think that's a nice way to, just have them get up and move around. And so they're just not sitting there. It's not kind of one note, even though they're playing a game and it's engaging. I think movement adds a whole nother level of engagement.
Yes, definitely. My kids are ones that need to move. So for me, that was huge. And I would also kind of go to different schools and be at a clinic. So it was always nice to know that as long as my iPad was charged and in my bag, then I would be able to pull that out and I would have whatever any student I needed. I would have an activity for anybody right there using my boom cards. So that was always a good go-to and definitely a staple to have in your therapy bag.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelby. Now we're moving on to Monica, and she's going to show us a really cool new feature that we've developed specifically with SLPs in mind.
So, hi everyone. I'm so glad to be here right now. I think Jenny gave a preview on this new feature and it's called Boom Live. So, let me just share my screen quickly so for you to be able to see it. So, just a few disclaimer before I continue that Boom Live is currently in beta mode. So, I was just I feel that it's an honor actually to test it out for Boom when I think they sent an email a few weeks ago on doing Boom Live. I immediately immediately said yes, that I would want to try it out because it couldn't have come at a better time at that time. So just to quickly share who I am, or just to quickly introduce who am I am a licensed speech and language pathologist in the Philippines. So I've been practicing since 2012 and I received the certification on AAC in 2018. The thing is that during the pre-pandemic times, I was doing in-person teletherapy. And of course, when COVID hit, we know that everything changed. And I stumbled upon boom cards during a webinar wherein I didn't know what to do and how am I going to transition from in-person to teletherapy. And post-pandemic time, I'm still doing teletherapy right now, and I haven't gone back to in-person, but probably in a few months' time I will. But actually, the situation here is back to normal, almost back to normal. So we would consider it as a post-pandemic times because almost everyone are going in person, but some therapists still opted to do teletherapy, and I'm one of those person. So right now I'm going to share like for example, when we're doing teletherapy, we know that there are specific hardware that you need to have. I called hardware because these are the tangible things that you need to have when you're doing a teletherapy session. You need to have a computer equipment, which meant that you would have a computer and then a second monitor. That would help, especially if you're sharing screen. You need to have also accessories such as a webcam, a proper webcam, a proper headphones if you're doing teletherapy. And of course, you need to have interactive materials such as boom cards. What I love about boom cards is that if especially you are making your own resources, it has the ability to be clicked. You can click it, you can drag the certain elements, and then you can type on the material. You can type on the keyboard, and you can record the answer through the boom. It's one of the boom features wherein you can type the answers and then you can submit it and then it will record the answers. And then you can set your own prompts if you're doing your own materials. You can also embed a video through Vimeo. You can incorporate appropriate images. For example, I said appropriate because there are times wherein, especially if you're working across different grade levels, there are some children that don't like childish images, especially if you're working around middle school to high school. They would prefer to have real images. So you can put images there. You can set the appropriate images appropriate for their grade level, and yeah, and you can also include sounds, just like what we showed earlier. And of course, it's self-checking too. The thing is that when you do teletherapy, sometimes we are limited by, for example, we are limited by a certain video conferencing application. Sometimes, for example, if you're doing um Google, for example, if you're using Google Meet, sometimes you cannot use the remote control access because it doesn't have that. Or even in MS Teams, for example, if you're using Zoom, then that's the only time that you can use the remote control access. And the thing is, as teletherapists or as SLPs, we use boom cards differently than the other teachers, because for the other teachers, what we do is that they sometimes assign a deck to the students and then leave that for homework, and then just wait for the student to submit the answers. But we do teletherapy, or we do therapy completely different, wherein we actually, when we do therapy, we share screen sometimes, and then we let the children see it, and then we sometimes we give control to them, sometimes we do the things ourselves. But then, just like what Jenny said earlier, sometimes it's hard because for other children it's hard to give controls, and then you're going to revoke it again, then give it again to the child. So I think when this feature was launched, I was so happy because it is a lifesaver. Basically, for the next part of this presentation, I'm just going to show a video. I have pre-recorded a video actually prior this presentation, so that you would be able to see how it looks like on the therapist end and on the student's end. So this is what they called as Boom Live. So this is like a share screen, but not actually a share screen, because you're not actually sharing screen to the student. You're just having that experience with the student that they're also doing the same thing as you are at the same time. So this is how it looks like. I'm gonna pause it like for on certain timestamps, just for me to be able to talk about it more. So here is a video that I prepared. So how do you use Boom Live during a speech and language therapy session? So, okay, sorry. Whoops. So here is the video. Okay. Oops, why is it not playing? All right. So here. So how do you do it? From your, okay, Boom library. So you are going to choose, for example, a specific deck that you want to work on. For this specific demo, I will be using the social problem solving deck that I made. So you're going to do, if you saw it, wait, I'm just gonna quickly go back. So you're going to do start live session. You're gonna click that. As of the moment, just like I mentioned, it's still in beta mode, but as I heard earlier during the developer showcase, they are going to release it in a few weeks time. So hopefully everyone will get to enjoy this feature when this rolls out. So as of the moment, you still need to type, since it's in beta mode, there's a certain password that you need to type. But for example, if it's rolled out already, this is how it looks like. When you click on the start live session, you will see this. So this is your view in preview mode. So what you're going to do is that if you saw that, you're going to click the red button on the upper or the top left side. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to quickly grab that URL, and then you can share that URL on the chat box. For example, you're using a certain video conferencing app. So you just share that on the chat, and then the students can click on that. And then this is what will happen. So this is your students' view. So they will see the deck immediately, and then they can type in their name. So for example, student 1. So they're gonna connect. And then when they connected, this is how it is going to appear on your end. So they have entered already. So you will see student one. There are a few controls here. You can set the controls on how they will control the deck. You can opt to give them controls on the mouse movement, meaning they can drag, they can drag and drop on the deck. You can also choose to give them access to click on certain buttons. You can also give the options for them to submit slides. This is so important because sometimes if we give control to our students, they are so excited about it, and then they will just submit it for you without even talking about what happened. So they will just answer the deck right away, and then they will just submit it. And if you're not too fast, it will move to the next slide without you being able to talk about it. So you have the option to not give that option for them to submit those slides. And then you can allow the users to fill in the blanks. So if the deck has, for example, typing activities, you can use that option. So there. For example, for this one, I think I gave just the first two, sending mouse, and then I didn't give the other option. So they can just control the mouse. So there. If you saw it, so this is the side-by-side comparison. I'm gonna play it in a while. So you will see that on the student side, you will see your mouse. They will see your mouse, like that is me. And then on the other side, you will see actually the students it will say student one, and it has a cursor right there. And then another difference is that you will see a number here on top that it indicates how many students or how many devices are logged into that session. So there is one student. So this is just a pretend, this is just a demo. So here is how it will look like. So, okay, oops, sorry. So there, okay. All right, so here. So you will see there student one, and then you will see on the other side, that is you as the therapist. So this is this SLP view, and then this is the student's view. Then this is how it would look like side by side. So of course, you only gave the drag option, so they cannot do anything, they cannot click. So that is why I gave the next option, which is they can click on a certain button. But since this is a Flow Magic deck, they think of the buttons there for you, the navigation buttons there. If you haven't set correct or wrong answer, it will think that it's a submit button, so they can not move it unless you give the next option, which is the submit button option. So as you can see, they can choose, for example, and it doesn't disrupt. Every time you click on the control, it doesn't disrupt the way they play on the other side. So they can drag, for example, they need support. They can drag the support card. How do they do problem solving, for example? And then if they need to see the picture bigger, I think they can drag it also, which you will see next. So that's a bigger view. And it doesn't disrupt the play, actually. This is just in the editing. I'm not saying that there's lag, actually. This is just in the editing of the video presentation itself. So there are certain options, there are certain prompts, there are choices. You can cover choices. Or if they need, for example, they don't need all of those prompts, all of those cues, they can just type in on the chat. So because I didn't give the keyboard option, they could not type. But once I gave the option to them, now the student can type on the chat, or they can type on the specific boom deck itself. So the student can type on the boxes when given keyboard option. So you will see side by side how it looks like. All right. So of course, they could not submit because I've revoked the submit slide access. But once I've given them, they can now check it by themselves. So there.
Monica, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know we want to ask a gazillion questions, but I do want to get
Yeah.
to Alyssa too. So could
All
you
right.
show us how would you end the session?
All right. So here's how you end the session. Just end the session and then you just click OK. And then the live session has ended. So quickly, I just want to show how are you going to use it in person. So in terms of in person, I think you mentioned about the group therapy. Um, Again, I haven't used it in person yet, but in case you're going to use it in person, it gives an opportunity for everyone that you don't need to share one iPad. Because if, for example, you have an activity just like Shelby's activity wherein there is a game board, or you have, for example, doing an escape room such as this one, you can log in. The children can log in into that session. Many of the children, like for example, you're doing a group of 3 or a group of 5, they can all log in into that session and then you can do the activity all at the same time. So basically, that is just it. I think we have more questions. So if you have questions, I would love to get to them. Okay.
Yes, if you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A box below. I do want to give Alyssa some time here. So Alyssa,
Yeah.
I'm turning it over to you. Sorry. Thank you.
1 second, I'll get this started. Okay. How many of you have had patients that have been working on minimal pairs and you're seeing gains, but you're not seeing generalization? I want to share with you today how to move your patients toward generalization. My name is Alyssa. I've been a pediatric SLP for 14 years and I create speech therapy materials as IO SLP. So I walk into my therapy room with my hands overflowing with minimal pair cards, a mirror, visual cues, toys. And I felt my watch buzz to alert me that my patient had arrived, and I saw all of my cues and visuals scattered on the floor. I felt exhausted. I had tried so many things to get my kid to move to the generalization level, but it just wasn't working. Has that ever happened to you? I knew that I wanted to change my approach, but I didn't know how to do it. And it was at that moment that I realized that I could use boom cards that aligned with research that would help my kids generalize these skills. At that point, this transformation occurred in my practice. After I made that decision, my kids started making gains at the conversation level because I was using a tool that helped push them beyond the word level, building their self-awareness and allowing them to make gains. This is my friend. Let me tell you about him. He uses a few phonological patterns, including gliding, cluster reduction, and fronting of SH. In clips today, you're going to see him work on his L sound. He's the perfect candidate for minimal pairs because he has consistent phonological based errors, but he's just been stuck at this conversational level, right? He's not consistently producing the L in conversation. He's able to say the minimal pairs and he's getting a high number of practices per session, but he was having a hard time moving past that. You're going to see lots of videos of him interacting with my gliding minimal pairs deck today. So the first step in minimal pairs is helping your client build awareness, right? And you'll do this by familiarizing them with pictures and then building their auditory discrimination skills with minimal pair word sorting. You'll see orthographic cues and visual mouth cues within this deck to help them understand the differences between the minimal pairs. And then this sorting activity is self-checking, so they get feedback about their answer. So in this clip, you're going to see me start with familiarization and move towards auditory discrimination tasks. He's going to sort the pairs by sound to build his knowledge of letter sound correspondence, which is so important for literacy skills. Let's listen.
So we have 2 pictures, right? We have week and leak. Now, what's a leak?
Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah. And then a leak is when the water comes out of the pipe, right?
Yeah, if you put something in there, might clog the toilet the pipes.
Mhm.
So you have to remove a pipe.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say either weak or leak, and I want you to move it to the right spot, right? So our L's, our tongue is up high, and they're going to go over here, leak. Or I'm going to say weak. And our lips are really round, and it's going to go over here. Ready? So where is leak?
Lake.
Good. Where is weak?
Week.
Very good.
So some clients can move right to production of minimal pair words, right? But others need to work on imitation of the treatment targets themselves. And then some require direct instruction on sound production before they can even produce a sound spontaneously. The mouth visuals in this deck are so helpful to provide additional cueing for either in-person or teletherapy. There's also tips on to help you elicit the sound. These movable pieces are also really great because they keep kids engaged while they're producing the sound in isolation and working on their letter sound correspondence. Let's watch.
We're gonna put your tongue up really high behind your top front teeth. Let me hear you go la.
La,
Good.
la, la.
Once they can imitate the target words, they'll move on to spontaneous naming with minimal pair questions. And I typically have the students answer a question, and then if they produce it incorrectly, I'll give them a pragmatic cue. I'll say, did you mean walk or luck? I heard you say walk. Is that what you meant? And if it isn't, then I'll cue them to correct their sound and then try to answer the question again while pressing the correct answer. And Boom's great because kids get a lot of great feedback from the ding sound when they get it correct. And they get really excited to hear that. Let's check this one out.
Okay, so you are gonna answer the question, what do we use to keep things safe?
A lock.
Good.
So after they can say a word spontaneously, you can use the deck to target self-monitoring, which is a huge piece that I was missing in my practice to get that generalization. Research says that self-monitoring can help kids generalize their speech to outside of the treatment setting. And these Boom card decks have a voice memo feature. So you can record their voice and then replay it to them. And you can have your client listen to themselves and make a judgment about their own speech. So we're going to hear him do that here.
Time I'm gonna have you say lock, and we're gonna listen to your voice after you say it. So go ahead and say lock.
Lock. Lock.
Keep going.
Lock. Lock.
Here he's going to make a judgment about it.
Now let's listen to how you sounded, and you can give yourself a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Yeah, go ahead and press play.
Lock. Lock.
How was that?
Lock.
How was that? Do you think that's thumbs up or thumbs down? How was that, Elle? It was thumbs up. That was so good.
Thumbs up.
Super thumbs up.
I just adore him. And he already knew, right? He already has his thumb up there. He's like, I already know that I'm good at this. Way to go. So to
Alyssa, that was so great. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I know that we have a ton more, and I think we might invite you back and a couple of you back to do a special extra webinar, if you wouldn't mind. That cool feature that you just all saw Alyssa use with her adorable student is called Voice Memo. And we'll send you an email with a link to how to use that more in creating your Boom cards. Again, thank you all for joining us. I do have to cut this short because we have more webinars to come. But Alyssa, if you wouldn't mind coming back, we'd love to have you maybe present at another webinar. In the chat box below, you're going to see a feedback survey. We'd love to have you tell us how we can improve in the future. There's links for future webinars for the rest of the day. And be on the lookout for our August 8th and 9th hashtag sales. You're going to be able to score a ton of Boom cards for just $1. So again, thank you very much. And my apologies for not letting us run on time, but I think we were just so excited, and clearly we want to hear more from you. And so if Alyssa doesn't mind coming back, I would love to have her. And with that, this concludes the speech therapy demo session, and we hope to see you in the next sessions in the day. Thank you, everybody. Bye.